I'm dealing with a cue in a film or whatever it is, video, TV show, there's a demand. That cue has a demand. It's a sad cue. It's a happy cue. It's a melodramatic cue. It's a nostalgic cue. It's an up-tempo cue. Dance, whatever it is, it's telling you what it needs. And then my job, once I know what the need is, and I've agreed with the director and producer as to what the need is, my job is to go out and find 8 to 10 at a time possibilities for that need. And that usually is like at the best a committee decision, and more realistically the director or producer's decision. And so while I'm always trying to help, it really comes down to it's just like anything else. Like you're either going to get the call or not get the call, and you have to just keep moving when you don't get the call. Because it's not the music supervisor, it's not even the director. It's the decision that was made, and I think you just got to learn to live with that, and that's kind of like my advice as the executive now talking, saying, hey, live with it, move on. And it doesn't necessarily mean your song wasn't good enough. That's the other thing that commonly happens is artists think they get really down on themselves, they want to give up, but it doesn't mean anything. It just means your song didn't get picked for that situation. And continue to try to do better, but just move on and keep shopping it. Interesting question. A lot of artists, I have a number of artists that email me, Dan, what are you working on? And one of the things that I did for a film called Suburban Girl, which was this, it ended up, I think, being a direct-to-video, but it was a cute little film with Alec Baldwin and Sarah Michelle Gellar. It was like a romantic comedy. I think the content of the film might have been a little over the general public's head because it was very lofty as far as like literary references and stuff like that. But it had a lot of music cues in it, and one of the things I did on that movie was I actually sent out to all the publishers and all the right songwriters I knew the cue and what I wanted for the cue. So if it was I kind of gave a brief description of the scene and then what kind of cue I wanted, and I sent that out to everybody. And it was great because I got a lot of really cool suggestions back. The publishers sent me tons of cues, not without getting too overbearing. It was like 3 at a time from each publisher, Warner Chappell, EMI, and whatnot. And I liked that a lot. The songwriters, I noticed, and artists were going out and trying to write stuff for that cue. They were desperately, what about this, what about that, what about that, and trying to fill that void. And a lot of times, and ever since I've done that, a lot of artists call me and they're like, can I write something for any cue you have going on? And I appreciate that, but it's very, very difficult because, it's, the producers and directors are typically not music people. They're just not. And they're great at what they do. They spent their life perfecting their craft of being a producer or a director or whatever, editor, but typically they're not music people. And so when you give them a demo and it's not complete and it's not what it's going to be in the movie, they don't, they just kind of they can't get there. So it is more challenging and it takes more time. And a lot of times I don't have the kind of time that it's going to take for you to write a song, record it in a demo form, even though demos nowadays are great, and get it back to me. It's hard, and I'm up for it, believe me, but it is a lot harder than having something that's right. And then I guess to answer your question more directly, which is, are there specific themes, it really depends on the movie, like The Spirit, which I'm working on right now. I'm probably going to have 1 or 2 end titles, Truthfully, I can tell you right now that I think that the end title to The Spirit might be like a really cool, rock song, but I kind of got to see what the score is going to be like, and then the feeling of the movie with the score. It might be a love song, like it could totally change. So you never really know until you're in that moment, and I guess the answer is really no. I don't think there is a general theme that you should be writing all the time that is something that's going to be more apt to get licensed than not. I mean, I suppose you could look at, Grey's Anatomy and say, I'm just going to write songs that I think will work on Grey's Anatomy, and that's a route to go. But for me, I mean, having worked on horror movies, romantic comedies, comic book adventure movies, action movies, I think that I've worked with so many different types of cues, I can't say that there's one that would be more, that you should be. If you're a writer, you should be writing this because this gets licensed more. Maybe love songs. If you look at commercials, I'm a big commercial music junkie, and a lot of times I find music off of commercials. Like I can't even remember the commercial because I don't pay attention to the product, but the Donovan song, which I thought was a Dylan song forever, I discovered through a commercial. I forget the name of the song too. Might as well catch the wind. I think is the name. Catch the wind. I think is the name of the song. There was, they're using the Postal Service song in the UPS commercials. They're using a song from a group in just the part where we let go. I'm trying to think of the name of that group. I downloaded it, I have it on my iTunes. It's just a beautiful song, but it was just their song off their record for some financial commercial. So commercials, it's interesting. They tend to go and they're going out and finding music just like I am in a sense. So it's kind of always, I think, goes back to that, here's a scene, here's a commercial, here's a movie, here's an end title, and it needs this. And I think those needs are different. And I guess in commercials nowadays tend to be really nostalgic, they want you to feel like life's good and life's not so bad, or so they tend to all be in that direction. I don't know if that's going to change sometime soon. Even the little Apple tune is really kind of nostalgic, that little ding, ding, ding. It's a cute little tune that you could kind of hum. But I don't know, like for movies, I think it's different. I think that whatever your catalog is, that is yours, that you've written, anything could be possible to be licensed, and that's the way you should look at it. All the time. I mean, obviously, a music supervisor, we're a human, and I have my ear and my taste, and so yeah, I mean, and I think one of my biggest faults is that I'm sometimes too obvious and that I'm trying to champion a song, and usually that drives the director and the producer away. It's a weird little, I think, just human psychology thing where it's like if you want something, don't want it too badly. So I've learned that, and so I try to keep the songs that I really like in the hopper for as long as possible to give them a chance to be chosen, and gently push them along. So yeah, absolutely. And I also love the re-record thing and finding interesting ways to do songs that I've always liked, you know what I mean? Especially if it's going to be too expensive to license a Buckley or something, whatever the situation is. And, quite frankly, I found that a lot of publishers and label people will try to work with you. And if you have a lot of cues, they'll even try to leverage in a couple of their other songs, and that's all part of the business, and that's cool. But yeah, if there's something